here. We've got a packed house tonight. The players are all set. We are ready to transport you back to Victorian London. So I really hope that you will enjoy this production of A Christmas Carol. It's got a few interesting things in it that you usually don't see in the movie productions, but that are in the book. So it'll be really interesting for you to kind of be able to pick those things out and get some new vantage points on this story that you probably know so well, but think about it in ways that you probably haven't thought about it before. So I really hope that you enjoy this production as much as we have enjoyed preparing it for you. And again, thank you for coming. Enjoy the show.
Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
Once upon a time, of all good days in the year, on Christmas Eve, old Ebenezer Scrooge, member of the firm of Scrooge, Marley and Company, sat busy in his counting house. It was cold, bleak, biting weather, and he could hear the people in the court outside go wheezing up and down, beating their hands upon their breasts and stamping their feet upon the pavement to keep warm. The city clock had just gone 3, but it was quite dark already, and the candles were glaring at the windows of the neighboring offices like ruddy smears upon the brown air. The door of Scrooge's counting house was open that he might keep his eye upon his faithful but shivering clerk, Bob Cratchit, who in a dismal, cold cell below was copying letters. Suddenly, Bob Cratchit rose and approached the office of old Scrooge.
What are you standing there for?
Well, sir, my fire is almost out, and I thought another bit of coal could keep it going until...
Nonsense, nonsense. Haven't I told you I won't have you burning up my coal like tinder?
Yes, sir.
So why are you still standing there?
Well, sir, you see, tomorrow's Christmas, and I thought maybe I could have...
Suppose you thought you might have the day off.
If quite convenient, sir.
It's not convenient. And it's not fair. If I was to stop every Christmas, you'd think me ill-used.
Yes, sir.
Christmas. Nothing but a poor excuse to pick a man's pocket every December 25th. And you, a clerk with 15 shillings a week, and a wife, and a child, talking about Merry Christmas? Humbug.
May I have tomorrow off, sir?
I suppose you must. But be here all the earlier the next day for it.
Yes, sir, I will, and thank you, sir.
Who's at the door, Cratchit?
A woman, sir.
Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. I have the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge and Mr. Marley.
Right,
Marley has been dead 7 years. And since you ask, he died 7 years ago this day.
Oh. Well, we have no doubt his liberality is well represented by his surviving partner.
Oops. Not interested.
At this festive season, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than desirable that we make some slight provision for the poor and destitute. At this moment, sir, many are in want of common necessaries. There is great suffering.
Are there no prisons?
Plenty of prisons.
The union workhouses are still in full operation.
They are. Though I wish I could say they were not.
The steel mill is still in full vigor then?
Oh, very busy, sir.
Oh. From your speech, I thought something had occurred to stop these businesses from their useful course of action.
But, sir, this organization scarcely furnished cushion to your mind. It is because that a few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat, drink, and means of warmth. We chose this time because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt, yet abundance rejoices. What may I put you down for?
Nothing.
You wish to remain anonymous.
I wish to be left alone. And since you ask me what I wish, that is my desire. My partner Marley never made merry Christmas, and I cannot afford to make idle people merry. I serve to support the establishments I have listed. They cost enough, and those who are badly off enough must go there.
Many can't go there. And many would rather die.
If they would rather die, then they better do it quickly and decrease the surplus population. Besides, that's none of my business. It's enough for a man to know his own business and not interfere with another's. So I bid you good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Who is at the door now, Cratchit?
Your nephew, sir.
Oh,
Merry Christmas to you, Uncle.
Humbug.
God save you.
humbug.
Christmas a humbug? You don't mean that, I'm sure.
Surely I do. What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
Come then. What reason have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be remorseful? You're rich enough.
Humbug!
Oh, don't be cross.
What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas! Out upon a Merry Christmas! If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips would be boiled in his own pudding, he would.
Uncle.
Nephew, keep your Christmas in your way, and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it? Well, you don't keep it.
Let me leave it alone then. Much good it's ever done you, O Will.
Why? It's done me a lot of good. Apart from its sacred celebration, it's brought me a good time. A kind, charitable, happy time. The only time I know in the whole calendar when men and women open their hearts. Hearts that remain closed the rest of the year. Yes, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of silver in my pocket, I believe it has done me good and will do me good. And I say God bless it.
You're quite the powerful speaker, sir. It's a wonder you don't go into politics.
Hey, Uncle, don't be cross. Come, dine with us tomorrow.
No, I will not dine with you.
But why?
Why did you get married?
Because I fell in love.
Because you fell in love. Good afternoon.
Uncle. Nay, you never gave that as a reason for not coming before I was married. Why give that as a reason for not coming now?
I said, good afternoon.
Uncle, why can't we be friends? We have never had a quarrel of which I have been a party, and we never will. I have come to see you in homage to Christmas, and I will keep my Christmas spirit to the last. So, a Merry Christmas,
Good afternoon!
and a Happy New Year!
Humbug!
After such a disturbing afternoon, Scrooge took his usual melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern, and having read all the newspapers, went home to bed. He lived in dismal old chambers which had once belonged to his irascible old partner Marley, a gloomy suite of rooms, old and dreary, where no one lived but Scrooge, the other rooms being let out as offices. And having closed and locked the door in his usual fashion, he put on his nightgown and slippers and sat down before the fire to take his evening gruel. The fire was very low indeed, casting eerie shadows on the walls. He was obliged to sit close to it and brood over it before he could extract any warmth from it. As he leaned forward in his chair, his glance happened to rest upon a bell, an old disused bell that hung in the corner and communicated, for some purpose long forgotten, with the chamber in the highest story of the building. It was with great astonishment and strange dread that as he watched, the bell began to swing, first slowly, then so quickly that every bell in the house joined in and rang also. This must have lasted for a half minute or so, To Scrooge, it seemed a terrifying hour. The bell ceased, to be followed by a clanging noise deep down below, as if someone was dragging a heavy chain over the casks in the wine merchant's cellar. Then followed a series of strange sounds, as of feet mounting stairs, coming closer and closer towards his room. Scrooge, suddenly aware that some weird happening was about to occur, hugged his shivering body and waited in fear and trembling.
Wait, I know. Marley's ghost? What do you want with me?
Much.
No, you cannot be Marley's ghost. Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who are you?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Well, can you sit?
I can.
Do it then.
You don't believe in me.
No, I do not.
What evidence would you have of my reality beyond your own senses?
I don't know.
Why doubt your senses?
Because the smallest thing upsets them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheats. Maybe a fragment of beef, a underdone piece of potato, a lot of mustard, a crumb of cheese. There's more gravy than a grave of you, whatever you are.
Man of worldly mind, do you believe in me or not?
I must, but how now? Why do spirits walk the earth and why do they come to me?
This required of every man, the spirit within him, must walk abroad amongst his fellow men, and if it does not go forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. Wander through the world, oh, woe is me, and witness what it cannot share, but might have shared on earth returning happiness.
Jacob, you're offended. Tell me why.
I wear the chains that I forged in life. Link by link I made them, and of my own free will I wore them. Would you know the weight of the strong coil you bear yourself? It was as full as this 7 Christmas Eves ago. It's indeed a ponderous chain.
Come now, Jacob. Stop with this. Speak comfort to me.
I have none to give. Comfort comes from other regions, Ebenezer Scrooge. It is conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of men. Nor may I tell you what I would. A little more is permitted to me. In life, my spirit barely walked beyond the narrow limits of our counting house marked me, and weary journeys lie before me.
7 years and traveling all the time.
All the time. No rest, no peace, incessant torture of remorse.
Well, you must have been very slow about it, Jacob.
Slow?
Did you travel fast?
On the wings of the wind.
Well, then, you must have covered quite a bit of ground over that time.
Oh, captive bound in double iron, not to know that any Christian spirit working kindly in this little sphere, whatever it may be, will find its mortal life too short for its vast means of usefulness. How did I walk through the streets filled with my fellow beings with my eyes turned to the ground and never raised them to that blessed star which led the wise men to a poor abode? Were there no poor homes to which its light would have conducted me?
Come now, Jacob. You were always a good man of business.
Business? Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of our trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business.
Well, come now, Jacob. Tell me, is there any way I may escape your fate?
Hear me. You will be haunted by 3 spirits. This is what you must do.
Is that the chance of which you spoke?
Yes, it is.
I'd rather not.
Expect it first, tonight, when the bell tolls 1.
Couldn't I have them all at once and just be done with it?
Expect the second on the next night at the same hour, and the third on the next night, when the last stroke of 12 ceases to vibrate. Look to see me no more. No more.
Slowly and quietly, the specter floated out upon the dark, bleak night, leaving Scrooge desperate with curiosity behind. After a moment, he followed and went to the window and looked out. The air was filled with phantoms wandering hither and thither, and moaning in restless haste. Many he knew personally. Old friends who had passed on, business acquaintances, all bound and fettered and wailing in mournful dirge. He was quite familiar with one old ghost in a white waistcoat, who cried piteously at being unable to assist a wretched woman whom he saw in the doorstep below. The misery of them was all clear, that they sought to help in human matters, but had lost the power forever. With a painful sigh, Scrooge closed the window and went to examine the door by which the ghost had entered. It was double locked, just as he had locked it earlier in the evening. He tried to say humbug, but after the first syllable, feeling much in need of repose, went straight to bed. Subconsciously, from deep in the realms of sleep, Scrooge heard the clock toll the quarter hour, the half hour, and remembered of the ghost's warning of a visitation on the stroke of one. Recalling this, he dozed fitfully. On the instant of one, as he lay there, the lights flashed up in his room. For a moment he blinked, and then stared wide-eyed at what he saw before him.
Are you the spirit? The spirit that was foretold me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I'm the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
What would you of me?
Rise aloft,
I am mortal and liable to fall.
nay, my head will support thee. Look now, what say you?
Why, I was a boy here. All this I remember well.
Your lip is trembling. And what is that on your cheek?
Lead on, spirit, I follow.
You recollect the way?
Remember the path of my boyhood? I could walk it blindfold.
Strange to have forgotten it for so many years. Strange. But let us go on. Ah, the schoolhouse. Do you remember? But of course you do. Even though it is Christmas Eve, it is not quite deserted. A small child, neglected by his friends, is left still here.
Yes, my own lost boyhood. My lonely son.
Do you recall this old brick schoolhouse? Look now, the walls are damp and mossy, windows broken, gates decayed. Let us look within at the boy who still reads near the feeble fire.
Yes, it was that day my little sister Fan came with the happy news that she had persuaded my father to come home for Christmas, that we might have a Merry Christmas together. How she clapped her tiny hands and laughed when she said that he had sent a coach to fetch me, that we might have a Merry Christmas together.
Did you go?
Yes, merrily, with the trunk tied on top of the chaise, and the quick wheels dashing through the snow.
Your sister was always a delicate creature, whom a breath might have withered. But she had a large heart.
Yes, I will not gainsay it, spirit, God forbid.
She died a woman, and had, I think, one child?
Yes, my nephew, Fred.
Shall we leave the boy to fix?
My poor forgotten self as I used to be. Poor boy.
What say you?
I would, but it's too late now.
What is too late?
Nothing.
Let us see another Christmas.
And so the spirit of Christmas past led old Scrooge down the memories of long ago, each separate experience recalling moments quite forgotten. Although they had but just left the school behind them, they were now in the busy thoroughfares of a city. It was again Christmas time, but it was evening, and the streets were lighted up. The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door and asked Scrooge if he knew it. Knew it? Why, I was apprentice here, cried Scrooge. And the joy of reunion came over him as he saw his old employer sitting behind a high desk in a Welsh wig. Why, it's old Fezziwig. Bless his heart. Fezziwig alive again, cried Scrooge. And as he watched, he saw the memories of that Christmas Eve suddenly come into being. The clearing of the warehouse floor for dancing, the fiddler perched on Fezziwig's high desk, the beaming face of Mrs. Fezziwig, and the gay laughter of 20 couple all dancing at once. Himself, a young lad of 18, laughing with the rest. On the stroke of 11, the party ended, with everyone wishing a Merry Christmas in high, ringing voices. Spirit, said Scrooge, what power we have to render others happy or unhappy. The power of words and deeds, as great as if it cost a fortune. He felt the spirit's glance and stopped. What's the matter? Asked the ghost. Nothing in particular, said Scrooge. Just now, I should like to be able to say a word to my clerk, Bob Cratchit, that's all. Once again, Scrooge and the ghost stood side by side in the open air. My time grows short, observed the spirit. Look, and Scrooge looked, this time seeing himself as a man in the prime of life. He was not alone, but sat by the side of a fair young girl in mourning dress, in whose eyes there were tears which sparkled in the light that shone forth from the ghost of Christmas past.
It matters little to you, very little. Another idol has displaced me, and if it can cheer and comfort you in time to come as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve.
What idol has displaced you?
A golden one.
This is the even-handed dealing of the world. There's nothing on which the world is so hard as poverty, nothing which it professes to condemn with such severity as the pursuit of wealth.
Poor Ebenezer, you feel the world too much. All your other hopes have merged into the one hope of being beyond its most sort of reproach, the reproach of poverty. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall one by one until the master passion gain imposes you, have I not?
What then? Even if I have become so much wiser, what then? I'm not changed towards you, am I?
Our contract is an old one made when we were both poor and content to be so, until in good season we can improve our worldly fortune with our patient industry. But you are changed. When it was made, Ebenezer, you were another man.
I was a boy.
Your own feelings will tell you you are not the same. I am. That which promised happiness is now fraught with misery now that we are two. How often and keenly I have thought this, I will not say. But it is enough to say that I have thought it and can release you.
If I sought release,
In words, no, never.
in what then?
In a changed nature, in an altered spirit, in anything and everything that made my love of any worth of value in your sight. Tell me, if this had never been before us, would you seek me out and try to win me now? No!
You think not?
I gladly think otherwise. Heaven knows I would, if I could. But if you were free today, tomorrow, can even I believe that you would choose a dowerless girl, you who in your very confidence with her, weigh everything by gain? And even if you do I not know that regret would surely follow? I do. And I release you with a heart full of love of the man that you once were. May you be happy with the life you have chosen.
No, Spirit. Conduct me home. I don't wish to see any more.
One shadow more.
No.
For the ruthless ghost pinioned in both arms, forced me to observe it for happy minutes. They're in a new scene and place. Not a very large room, but one full of Christmas cheer and comfort. Nearby the wintry fire sat a mother and daughter, such alike in loveliness, that the Scrooge caught his breath to think that the one a comely matron might have once called him husband, and another such a like creature full of such grace would have called him father, and have been the springtime and his winter of his life. As he watched, there was a knocking heard at the door. And such a rush ensued the younger children just in time from their play to greet their father, who was laden with toys and Christmas presents. After the excitement quieted down, the master of the house sat by his own fireside, and with his daughter leaning fondly on him, and his wife nearby making a picture of contentment and domestic happiness. Scrooge could stand no more. "Spirit," he cried, "remove me from this place. I cannot bear it. Leave me, take me, haunt me no longer." In his anguish, he wrestled with the ghost of Christmas past. And yet, he found himself only struggling with a strange and broken light. He was conscious of being awake and drowsy, and of being in his own bedroom, with barely time to reel to bed, before he was overcome with a heavy sleep. At the stroke of one, Scrooge awoke in the middle of a prodigiously tough snore and sat right up. He knew that the second messenger dispatched for Marley's intervention would soon show itself, and this time he was to question it the moment of its appearance. 5 minutes, 10 minutes passed until there was no ghost. So he began to think. He had noticed a strange and ghostly light about the clock, and he wondered in the adjoining room if he would find its source. Before he even moved, the voice called him by name. And he entered. It was his own room. There was no doubt about that. But it had undergone a surprising transformation. The walls and ceilings were so hung with living green that it made such a perfect grove that it looked like it glistened with gleaming berries. It was as Christmassy sight as old Scrooge had ever seen.